Hello and welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Molero.
And we are
the FAIRtax Guys.
Coming to you from a makeshift studio over here near our Facebook Live command post. Yes, we did survive the hurricane. Those of you that listen to us know that we're from Florida. But you're thinking, as I'm hearing people say, what do you mean the hurricane? That was 3 weeks ago. Well, my buddy Ron is going to take a little trip up to South Dakota, among other places, and we are recording ahead a little bit. So we are recording this like about 3 days after the hurricane came right through the middle of Central Florida. But we made it, and so never underestimate what the FAIRtax guys are willing to do to get the FAIRtax passed.
Yeah, and it's like a 20-mile trip from Bob's house to here, and what a gauntlet he had to run just to get here.
Yes, I have no power still, and probably won't have it another for 3 or 4. Hopefully, by the time people hear this, I will have had it for a couple of weeks. But at the time we're recording this, I've got about 3 more days without power. They tell me.
We just got ours back last night. We're without it.
Well, that's why I'm going to come over here and borrow yours.
Yep.
But that's good. Good to see you, and you have a nice, safe trip.
Yes, happy hurricane days.
Thank you. So, yes, we're fine. Appreciate that, guys. We'll give us our email address, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. If you'd like to get a hold of us, talk to us on our Facebook page, and, of course, leave us a like. And, of course, we had to postpone the Facebook Live.
Actually canceled it.
Yeah, canceled it because we didn't have power. We couldn't get that off. Of course, that was 3 weeks ago from people listening to this now. This time frame can get you a little bit confused, but hopefully we'll have another one before too much longer and have that out for you.
Yeah. So we'll have another one in October. Just listen and watch our Facebook page because we'll have it listed there. But the weird thing is, Bob, is that I got power back about an hour before our scheduled Facebook page, but we had already canceled it.
Yeah.
There was no way to know.
Yeah, there was really no way to do that, but we'll take care of that. And of course, we do appreciate the participation we get. We're getting more participation on that every time. People are asking us some really good questions. But
as a matter of fact...
Yeah, let's tell you what, I'm glad folks understand kind of the time frame here while we're recording this about 3 weeks before it's going to be heard, which explains why it's taking us so long to get to this gentleman's letter from us. He sent us a big email here at the fairtaxguys.gmail.com. Jade, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Wall, W-A-L-L-E. And a short note of encouragement to you gentlemen, and it's 2 pages single-spaced.
Apparently, that's what is
Jade,
short...
we do appreciate you listening to us, absolutely, and writing as well.
Apparently, for CPAs, that's a short note.
Okay. Well, let me read the first paragraph here for it. It says, great job on your podcast. I have binge listened up to episode 33 now over the past 2 weeks. I've joined the 1040 Club, which is a good thing for you to do. We'll explain what that is a bit later. He's written to the president, written to the Speaker of the House, the 2 Colorado senators. This man lives in Colorado. He's also written his congressional representative, none of which co-sponsor the fair tax in the Congress, and he's trying to convince them of the numerous benefits of the fair tax relative to our current intrusive and abusive income tax system. And as you mentioned, this guy's a CPA.
Yeah. And you know, that first paragraph was so encouraging because that's what we encourage people to do. Bob and I are doing FAIRtax Power Radio to encourage people to get active and do something about promoting the fair tax. Yeah, write to the president. You can write to the president. You can go to whitehouse.gov/contact and you can leave email for the president. You can contact your senators and your representative. He joined the 1040 Club. That is the a financial support for the Americans for Fair Taxation, in which he's committing to send $10.40 every month. Those sustaining memberships are really important to AFFT. So he's done a lot of things that we're encouraging you folks to do every week on FAIRtax Power Radio. So Jade Wall, thanks very much for all you're doing. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and it brings up a really good point. We hear time and again, if you get this fair tax passed, you're going to put a lot of CPAs out of business. And we are talking to one here, or he's talking to us. Yeah. Yep. Not true. What does he say about this?
Yeah, well, obviously we're not going to read the whole 2 pages.
No, not the whole 2 pages.
But this paragraph is really important. I should point out that I'm a CPA and a partner in a Big 4 public accounting firm where we stand to lose an entire line of service. And then in parentheses, professional accounting firms usually have 3 lines of service: audit and attest, taxes, and consulting. All right, so he would stand to lose an entire line of service that contribute to the partnership distributions that I receive. That being said, I would sacrifice 1/3 of my income in a split second if it would mean the fair tax enactment at this moment. It's simply the right thing to do for our country beyond any personal circumstances.
And of course, that 1/3 of his income, I think, is somewhat theoretical. Because what's going to happen is if that line of service goes away, CPAs no longer need to help businesses with taxes because businesses will no longer have any tax liability under the fair tax. He will be able to concentrate more on the audit, the test, and consulting. So there will be other work to do. It's not like they're going to lose 1/3 of their business, I don't think.
My guess is they'll have, not being a CPA, they'll have a lot more consulting to do. And we've had other CPAs tell us the same thing. They really just detest the current tax code. It's so complicated. If, we think we have trouble keeping up with the tax code as individuals, imagine what CPAs have to do working for big corporations.
Yeah, well, think about it. If I'm responsible for preparing your taxes and the tax code is so complicated, even the professionals really can't get their arms around it, and the IRS, and I do something totally inadvertently wrong.
Yeah,
it's just so complex. You can't do it perfectly anyway. And the IRS comes back on you, and you come back on me. I am on the hook.
Yeah,
for not understanding as the CPA. If I do your taxes, I'm the one that's going to be on the hook if the IRS comes after you.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that a lot of these CPAs would love to get off that hook permanently and never be responsible for the figures that they write down on somebody's piece of paper.
Well, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, they are on the hook. Now, there's one more part of one paragraph that I'm going to read because I really like the way he puts this. I've been thinking about this before, but he spells it out. An interesting topic to chat on further would be how there seems to be an apparent streak of freedom and fairness in most Americans, which makes them feel violated when their most precious property, which comes from their hard labor and work, is taxed, which likely exacerbates the tax evasion problem.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a good little bit here on Fair Tax Power Radio, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, and so, these are the problems that we currently endure under the current tax system. However, with the fair tax, this deep-seated feeling of being violated is not present. That really spells it out. The founders of our country and the framers of the Constitution detested the idea of an income tax because it's doing exactly what we see. It's taxing you on your hard work and your ingenuity. The harder you work, if you work one job and have a part-time job on the weekends or whatever you do, or you're a successful salesman or you're a business owner, the harder you work, the more you put into your job or your business, and the more you get out of it, the more Uncle Sam is right there with his hand out. People don't like that. I mean, they really don't like that. It's against everything that this country was founded on. And that's why it wasn't in the Constitution. And that, unfortunately, 104 years ago, they put it in the Constitution. Bad idea.
Big mistake.
That really encapsulates the idea. Americans are independent and they're proud of what they earn and what they create. And the income tax is hurting that idea. It is the antithesis of the American dream. So
okay, well, Jade, we certainly appreciate your input here. Of course, we didn't have time to read it all, but we did read it all on the radio here. But we did read the whole thing for sure. We would encourage you, if you haven't written to us yet, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. Jade, I would encourage you to talk to us on our next Facebook Live. I'd love to talk to you face-to-face.
That would be great.
That would be really good, Jade. If you can pull that off, that would be
it'd be like, I think, 6 p.m. his time.
Yeah, it's,
there's another thing.
By
the time you folks are listening to this, he will have written an article for FAIRtax Friday. All right? He wrote the article for FAIRtax Friday that comes out on the 15th. All right, okay. So that by the time this episode is aired, you already see. If you're not getting FAIRtax Friday, you need to connect with the Americans for Fair Taxation at one of two websites, bigsolution.org. There's a connect button there, and you can give them your contact information, and you'll start receiving FAIRtax Friday. Or you can just go to fairtax.org and do it there. Either one, but. That FAIRtax Friday is a good summary of what's going on. There's usually a guest article, and then there's a report by Chairman Steve Hayes. It's good stuff. And, of course, it comes out every Friday, just like FAIRtax Power Radio.
Good deal. Well, let's move on here. Again, thank you so much, Jade. We appreciate your correspondence, and we encourage the rest of you to talk to us as well. But as we are recording this is going to be a few weeks old by the time people hear this episode, the president has put forth his tax plan. Or at least he's put down some more stuff. And what's really cool, he listed 4 kind of goals, things that they wanted to accomplish with his tax plan. And he says the first one is tax relief for middle-class Americans. In order to achieve the American dream, let people keep more money in their pockets and increase after-tax wages.
What a great idea.
Yeah, the second one, simplify the tax code to reduce the headaches for Americans that they face in preparing their taxes. Let everyone keep more of their money. That's same, hit that again. Grow the American economy by discouraging corporate inversions, adding a huge number of new jobs, making America globally competitive again, and does not add to the debt or deficit, which is already too large. So you think about it. Those are the 4 goals that the president is trying to hit. And what is he doing?
Yeah. Oh, he must be doing the fair tax. That fits perfectly in the fair tax. President Trump is finally doing the fair tax. But of course, when you read on, unfortunately, that's not what he's doing. But
we're trying to convince him to go that way.
Yeah.
But it is amazing that all of the goals, all 4 of them, and all 4, of course, noble goals, the fair tax hits it out of the park on all 4 of those.
And not only that, it stays hitting it out of the park for eons to come because it's a very stable tax plan. So let's go on here. He goes into a little bit more detail, the tax relief for the middle class. If you are single and earn less than $25,000, or if you're married and jointly earn less than $50,000, there'll be no tax. So he's kind of, that's kind of what the fair tax does too, considering the prebate. All right.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Again, that is the fair tax prebate is a refund of taxes you do not owe. Again, you do not owe a dime of federal tax under the fair tax until your spending rises above the poverty level. Which for a family of 4 is like 32 something last time we
Family of 4, 30. I can't remember 32.6, and I didn't get a copy out before we sat down here.
If you get the fair tax, the withholding goes away. You get your whole paycheck, plus you get this prebate. You will have more money in your pocket with the fair tax than you will with the president's plan here.
Yep. Now, let's see. For the second goal, which is simplify the tax code, all other Americans will get a simpler tax code with only 4 brackets: 0, 10%, 20%, and 25% instead of the current 7. Okay.
How about none?
Yeah. How about none would be really good. I mean, that's the part where you see, well, oh my gosh, the president is not talking about the fair tax. He's talking about a modification of the current income tax. We've done this before. We did this 31 years ago, and look where we are now. The tax code is almost 3 times larger than it was after President Reagan got done with it in 1986. They flattened out they really scrapped the tax code and rewrote it. And even then, it was like 26,000 pages. And now it's over 75.
I tell you, you talk about simplifying the tax code. I guarantee you that when the president's plan finally gets put into legislative language, it will be a good bit more than the 133 pages that the fair tax is.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And it maintains the current tax plan and just adds language to it.
And of course, a lot of those 133 pages is referencing various bits of the federal code that will be repealed.
Yeah.
It does not take 133 pages to describe how the fair tax is going to work.
That's right.
It takes that much to repeal the legislative authority that under which an income tax is currently collected. But I will, when President Trump's plan is put into legislative language, I'm going to route him, ask him how many pages it is, and say, well, my plan is 133 pages. I win.
Yeah, how's yours? All right. The third one, no business of any size, whether it's a Fortune 500 or a mom and pop shop, will pay more than 15%. Okay, and reducing corporation tax is good. I mean, there's still those people out there that say, oh, the corporations must pay their fair share. They are fooling themselves big time. Corporations don't pay taxes. It's a cost of doing business. They pass that cost on to the consumer or their employees or their stockholders. In any way, corporations people always bear the cost of excessive taxation on corporations.
Yeah.
So,
and I've heard some people are saying that the 15% corporate tax is the president's goal. More than likely, when it gets through Congress, it's going to be closer to 20 or 25%.
Yeah.
And so, this is just the president's proposal. And, when it has to go through Congress to become law, they're going to monkey with it. They're going to tinker with it.
And the lobbyists will be right in there, right side by side with the congressman, almost.
But if a reduction from 35 to 15 is good, 35 to 0 would be better. Again, the fair tax does not tax corporations.
Yeah, because
it does not.
Yep. So, and the last one, no family will have to pay the death tax. Those are all really good goals. I mean, those are good goals, but unfortunately, it maintains the income tax. And what's going to happen? I mean, as Bob says, we've seen this movie before. 1986, President Reagan and the Congress scrapped the tax code, rewrote it, made it simpler and so forth. And look what's happened. Like I said before, it's almost 3 times larger than it was then. The lobbyists will love the idea of flattening out the tax code and so forth because they get to start all over again. And to look at the stability issue, let's see here. I don't have my computer in a very good. Hang on.
You got to turn around away from the microphone to look at your computer.
Yeah, I went to.
We've been tracking on Congress.gov.
Yep.
How many proposals to change the income tax code have been submitted in this Congress, which started in January. It is now, as we're recording this, mid-September.
Yep.
How many we got?
896 proposals to change the tax code in 8.5 months.
And I bet at least 895 of them were bought and paid for by a lobbyist.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Lobbyists, as we said, lobbyists love the idea of tinkering with the tax code and flattening it out and making it simple because they get to keep going. I mean, we should call this the Tax Lobbyist Job Security Act of 2017. Because that's what it is. It'll ensure that the lobbyists have lots to do for years to come.
All right. Point 4 here that the president said he was trying to hit does not add to the debt or the deficit, which is already too large.
Yeah.
And he says that that's not going to happen under his plan because they're going to pay for any cuts by reducing or eliminating most deductions and loopholes available to the very rich, which the fair tax does. They will take a one-time or deemed repatriation of corporate cash held overseas at a significantly discounted 10% tax rate, which the fair tax taxes at 0, and that will be followed to an end to the deferral on taxes on corporate income earned abroad. They'll be reducing or eliminating corporate loopholes that cater to special interests. If it's a good idea to lessen the tax burden on corporations, the fair tax has everybody beat because the fair tax does not touch corporations. It does not give them this extra tax burden plus all the compliance costs that we talk about, the cost of the tax attorneys and the accountants that they have to hire. All of that stuff gets passed on to us, the consumers. The fair tax gets rid of it. In fact, the corporations, there was a survey that said about 600 international corporations, 60% of them said they would move to the United States if the corporate tax rate was 0, which is what the fair tax will do.
Yep, that's right. And there's a part of this that really rankles me. Why do they assume they have to pay for tax cuts? This is Washington
speak. That's like the government thinking that our money is theirs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you believe that you have to, you're in the government and you want to give people tax cuts, but you have to pay for them somehow, then you believe that all money belongs to the government and it's up to them to let you know how much you can keep of what you earn. All right. Things are backwards here. This is not the way it's supposed to be. So these people that think they have to pay for tax cuts, that is not, again, that's kind of like not what the country was founded on.
All right, let me ask you something. How much money do you think the president spent researching his plan to make sure it would work?
How much of our money did he spend?
How much of our money did he spend researching this thing? Because you can promise stuff all day long.
That's a good question.
If the numbers don't add up, I bet you it's nowhere near the $20+ million worth of research that's behind the fair tax.
That was not paid for by the government. That was all privately funded.
Yeah. So the fair tax has got $23 million about in privately funded research. I mean, by some of the most noted economists and the most prestigious universities in the country that were called together to put this plan together. And they spent that much money making sure that the ideas that they were working on were indeed going to work and that it was indeed going to be revenue neutral, one of the president's goals.
Yeah. And
so we've got $23 million worth of research that says our plan, the fair tax, will be revenue neutral. How much have you put in to figure it out if that's going to be true for you?
And here's another example. I mean, and this is recent. The Americans for Fair Taxation recently commissioned a study on tax evasion. Dr. Richard Sebula of Jacksonville University in Florida. He's an expert on income tax evasion. He had a study out that was dated 2012. It needed to be updated because AFFT wants updated figures to bring to Congress. So he recently did a study. And, these things take time and they take a lot of money to do these studies. They don't knock it out at home, in between jobs. This took months for him to put together. And that has to do with evasion, which is another subject we need to talk about.
Did you notice that, though, reducing evasion was not one of the goals that the president was trying to hit?
They never talk about that. Steve Hayes said that. You bring up evasion, because Steve Hayes goes to Washington once a month at his own expense. Steve Hayes is the president of the Americans for Fair Taxation, goes to Washington once a month at his own expense to lobby for the fair tax. And the Congress critters, they don't know what to do about it. You bring up evasion, and they just kind of give you a blank stare. Because they have no solution for it. And the current income tax is not going to touch evasion. So this study that Dr. Sebula did, I think finished it in the spring, projects that for 2017, the worst case scenario is that the tax gap, and we've talked about this before, we did a whole episode on it, is $693 billion. $693 billion that's not being paid to the IRS that should be paid because people are not paying what they're supposed to be paying.
Absolutely. So if you go to a town hall meeting that any of these congressional representatives or senators have, just ask them, what are you going to do to stop the income tax evasion? Because the system's going to collapse under its own weight if the evasion continues. And the way the economy is going, with fewer and fewer people working a job for a W-2,
right,
more and more income that's not going to be reported to the IRS, and people are not going to self-report a whole lot of that. What are you going to do? What is your plan for reducing tax evasion? And see what they tell you.
Yeah, because they'll probably very quickly change the subject and say something profound without answering your question, because that's what they do.
You'll get some political gobbledygook. How about the fair tax?
And another thing, that $693 billion, you say that to people. I've thrown out that figure at various meetings, and people's eyes kind of glaze over. However, per household, and according to Dr. Sebula's studies, there's somewhere over 129 million households in the United States. Per household is $5,365. Now let that sink in. Your household is paying an extra $5,365 because other people are cheating on the income tax. And what's going to happen in 9 or 10 years? It gets worse. It gets worse. $693 billion today, or 2017, in 2026 becomes $1.1 trillion in evasion. And that amounts to, and they project for the population growth and so forth, that amounts to $8,525 per household. If we can't stay with the income tax and things keep going the way they're going, people are evading the income tax, one, because it's easy, two, because like Bob said, the American economy is changing. We don't have that many people that are getting W-2s. It used to be that 99% of people worked for somebody else, and they got a W-2, and it was taken out automatically. Now we got all these entrepreneurs that are doing 1099s because they're an Uber driver, they do pet sitting, they have this little business, they have an eBay business and so forth, and they put all these things together to make a decent living. And somehow, not all that stuff gets reported. So you have a 19th century tax plan in a 21st century America, and it ain't working.
Yeah, let's go quickly through these 4 goals again one more time before we have to leave. Tax relief for middle-class Americans. The fair tax gets rid of your withholding. You bring home your full gross amount of your paycheck, plus you get your prebate. More money in your pocket with a fair tax, no doubt. Simplify the tax code.
You can't get any simpler than a consumption tax.
Grow the American economy.
Oh, definitely. And that's part of the $20 million in research. It shows how when you go to a consumption tax and get rid of the income tax, businesses grow. And that means more jobs. And that means higher employment and more money to spend.
We don't have to worry about this border adjustability thing. You just take the tax component out of the wholesale price of everything that American manufacturers sell on the global market. American manufacturers become much more competitive on the global market. That grows the American economy. Point 4 does not add to the debt or deficit. Fair tax has got $23 million worth of research that says that won't happen. And our point 5, it will bring down evasion in a dramatic fashion.
That's right. That's right. And as Bob said, the president's plan doesn't even touch evasion, doesn't mention it. People in Washington don't seem to want to even talk about evasion, but it is a huge problem. And any income tax plan, whatever the president and the Congress comes up with, if it remains as an income tax, evasion is going to be a continuing huge problem, and they are not addressing it.
But you know what? I've seen a remarkable similarity between the goals that the president said he was trying to accomplish and the goals that Speaker Ryan, with his A Better Way plan, said he was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And in both cases, every last goal on both of these plans is met by the fair tax a whole lot better than what they said that they want to do. So don't believe it when the politicians say that they're working for you. They're not. They're working for the lobbyists. You have got to rise up and demand the fair tax. And how do people do that?
Well, let's see. As I've already mentioned, the national group, Americans for Fair Taxation, you can go to fairtax.org or bigsolution.org, either one. Big Solution is kind of the activist website where you can get involved. Fairtax.org there's lots of information. So if you still have questions, go to fairtax.org. There's lots of FAQs there and and there's some great videos and so forth. Lots of information there.
Yeah, we borrowed some of their FAQ stuff.
That's right.
And go back and listen to that.
They made for 2 very, very good episodes. The other thing is your state organization. Go to fairtax.org and find out through that who's in your state organization and help them out. For those of you that live in Florida, help out the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association. We do need your help. Admittedly, we're not as strong as we were before because there have been so many distractions. Tea Party, Common Core, this, that, and so forth. And we need to build up our strength. And every state organization deserves your support. So there's 2 things you can do.
Yeah, we didn't mention this little part of Jade's letter. He said he had moved to Colorado last year. He noticed there was no Colorado state fair tax organization. So if you live in a state that does not have a state organization, we'll be happy to help you put you in touch with people that can help you make that happen.
That's right. Yep.
And you know what? We got some really heavy hitters right here in Florida.
Yeah. And Jade did get a hold of Steve, our chairman, and they are setting some things up. And like I said, he did the Fair Tax Friday on the 15th.
So again, thanks to Jade for his note here. I say
Great
note, it's
email.
2 pages. TheFairtaxGuys@gmail.com. If you'd like to communicate with us, like us on Facebook. Check us out on Facebook Live as well, and that will be here before too much longer, hopefully. And we're just about out of time.
Good heavens. Can't believe it.
Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I good appreciate it. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
We are the Fair Tax Guys, reminding you that the fair tax is America's big solution. And once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
Fair tax is coming. Don't